assalamu alaikum, Jiayanu, Pakhairagale, Ni hao, Chune Shumme, Washmale, Ohio, Gonzaimes, Guten Morgen, Ola, Bonjour, Privyat, Khaifahal, and a very amazing assalamu alaikum, Khoshamadi to everyone who's tuned into PT World and Watching World this morning, alongside the very pretty Maha Makhdoom and Shazad Khan. Hello, Maha, how are you?
Hello, Shazad. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm really good today, actually. I was actually really looking forward to coming to work.
Really? Well, that's not what you texted.
No, I've never said that.
No, that's not what you said. But you said that, but do you want me to share it?
No,
on,
I don't
on
want
TV?
you to share it.
No, but it's perfectly all right. I'm surprised by the statement which came out of you.
No, because what you're saying is because I was thinking a lot about psychology over the weekend. I was thinking, how does it impact us? Does it actually impact us? Are we using it as an excuse, for our certain behaviors in life? But then I just, did some research, and luckily my dad's around as well. He's a psychiatrist. But I was reading all these things, and I realized, there's science behind everything, and it's there, and all the theories, they're proven, and all these things. So I was just thinking, I'm excited because we have this platform, and I would love to start sharing these things, because I think even in 2017, we're very unaware of how things impact us, and we try to push them aside and, negate our feelings and emotions.
We deny things quite a lot of times.
So that's why. But
I think depression is a word which is becoming overrated too as well, because every now and then you see somebody and they're like, oh yeah, dude, I'm depressed. And you're like, okay, why are you depressed? And they do not really have a reason for that.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. That's the whole point about mental health illnesses or, problems or things that people go through, that there doesn't have to be a reason. It's either an external situation or there's an imbalance or there's something happening. But we will be sharing more. But this is the thing. That's the whole thing about people's reaction to this. So that's what I was thinking about this weekend. And then I was happy that I had the show to do it. So that's what happened.
Exactly. So yesterday, I guess, if I'm not wrong, it was the 10th of December as well.
Yes.
It was a very important day. So today, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're going to discuss. Because 16 days earlier, there was another show which we did, and we do have a public service message. So I think we are going to go for a public service message, and then come down to the point where we did a show 16 days ago.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the public service message is that there are walls of kindness that are popping up around the country. So what our public service message is that, if you have old clothes or, anything that you don't want, it's cold outside, there's a lot of people that are suffering, please go and donate and hang your clothes over there, because, helping someone, it's good, especially you have the ability to do it.
I think I'm going to give you guys a reason too as well. For example, for all of those ladies within my own house, what they do is that when it's winters, so we gather around our dad, and then we are like, okay, what we need to do is that we probably need to buy some new clothes for winters, and then when it's summers, we are like, we need to buy some new clothes for summer. So when you buy your new clothes, why can't you share your older ones? Please start doing that, and I think it will pay you off. It's sadqa jariyah as well. For all those people who are going to wear it for days and days, you're going to get all of the benefit.
Okay, great. So that's our public service message. Please go out and help. But now, as Shazad mentioned, we have a wonderful show lined up for you. 16 days ago, we observed launching the 16 Days Activism. It was something to highlight the violence against women and, all these different forms, and we shared all the figures, the psychological effects. But now it wrapped up yesterday as well, on the day of the Human Rights Day.
When they actually completed the 70 years as well, ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about humanity over here, and when we talk about equity, when we talk about justice, I think justice can only be prevailed when there is equity within the society.
Exactly, and what we're seeing, across the globe is that people are not really abiding by, the humanity and the human rights and the breaking international law with certain, policies, and, that's not going to help the societies around. Anyway, so let's talk about the importance of the 16 days, how it's linked in with the Human Rights Day, and, the impact of it all. So Shazad, could you please do the honors?
All right, well, I've got the name on the newspaper.
Okay, so I'd just like to highlight that this lady has been working a lot, since she was young on women's rights.
In 50 different countries?
In 50 different countries. She has been a keen activist working within the Women's Action Forum. She's been a member of the National Commission on Status of Women. She's established multiple NGOs and for-profit NGOs. She's had private organizations and international forums, and she's set up international forums, one of them which is a Women and Water Networks, and as Shazad mentioned, 50 plus countries. So we're going to get a very good detailed idea of what's happened.
So she's the senior group head, Grants Operation Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund, none other than Miss Simi Kamal. Hello ma'am, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. Good to be here on your show.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
very
for
much.
being here and talking about such an important topic. But let's talk about the 16 days activism. If you'd like, just like to give us a brief recap of the importance of it and how it came about in Pakistan.
Well, before talking about Pakistan, let me say why we have 16 days of activism
Okay.
globally. And it is the commemoration of the struggle and death of 3 women in the Dominican Republic that happened in 1960. But it took almost 40 years for that event to be recognized and to be understood and to be made part of the international way forward of dealing with violence against women. So there were these 4 sisters, and they were part of the struggle, part of a political struggle in their country. And the husbands of 3 of them were locked up. So they were out trying to get them out. 1 sister stayed back, the 4th sister, and 3 of them, they were put upon by whatever the forces be in those days. And they were tortured and killed, and their bodies were dumped along with their car into a river. And it was some time before they were found. So the 4th sister kept on the struggle. And it took a long time before this was recognized, first within the country, where, you know, the capital was, the name was changed to reflect them, and they are very much remembered there. But then this became part of the international struggle. So although this happened in 1960, in 1999, the UN adopted this struggle, and as a start of the 16 days of activism. It started first as a day of activism, which was 25th November, against violence against women, and then, you know, it became part of remembering every year of all those women, and of course some men who've lost their lives in the struggle for equality for women. And these 16 days end on 10th November, which is International Human Rights Day. Now, the International Human Rights Day has a special significance for the women's movement and women's rights movement across the world, because it stands to recognize women's rights as human rights, not as rights that are somehow different from the rights of men. And what was really interesting about this, I don't know if you know this, do you know who spearheaded this whole, within the UN system, who spearheaded the passage of the human rights treaties? Any idea? It was a woman. It was Eleanor Roosevelt, and many people don't know this. And in New York, you know, her house is dedicated to all women's organizations who would like to go and hold events there, and I've been there myself a number of times. And so this is how we forget, and we should not forget. In Pakistan's own existence, we have our own icons. Look at all those women of early time, those who took part in Pakistan movement. And of course, I'd like to say here that women's struggle cannot be separated from political struggles. They're always part and parcel of what is happening. If you know, when during the times of General Zia-ul-Haq, when we had all these repressive events happening in Pakistan, it was the women who had the guts, and they set up, you know, Khawateen Ittihad, the Mahaz, the Women's Action Forum, and they were out there in Lahore, and many of them were locked up. I think you must have seen all the pictures, we show them on television. And in fact, part of the MRD movement started from that struggle. So, you know, these are things we as women of Pakistan must know. And then, you know, the Women's Action Forum has continued. Out of that movement grew many NGOs in Pakistan. Shirkat Gah, Aurat Foundation, Seymour, many others. And this was all at that time. So many, and then there was a second wave of NGOs, which had many of the rural support programs, the Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund that I now work for, and many other organizations. So the struggle for women's rights has been on many different levels. First, of course, is to reduce the violence against women, because however rosy we think things are in Pakistan, yes, there are many good things happening, but there are also very many not good things happening.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask, because you just mentioned the regime of Mr. Zia-ul-Haq as well, and then you said that there were other organizations which were born, and then NGOs. But what difference do you think all of these organizations have made so far till 2017? Do you think it's getting better?
In many ways, yes. In many ways, it's getting better. I'll share some of those. In some ways, it's getting worse. Okay. And I think that a lot of the time these days, like these 16 days of activism, serve to remind us of a lot of things we still have to do. It is okay to say, oh, you know, give ourselves a pat on the back and say, wah, wah, humne ye kar liya, wo kar liya. Yes, we have done, and let me tell you what are the good things we've done. Okay, we have, for example, the Muslim Family Laws Ordinance, which has been a great support in advancing women's rights and equality in Pakistan. Okay, and at the moment, the National Commission, the provincial commissions are working on having similar things for our non-Muslim
Okay, great.
groups as well. So the Muslim Family Laws Ordinance has survived many attacks that came on it, and it has tried to equalize the marriage scene in Pakistan so that, you know, every man and woman has the opportunity to discuss, look at it, and to come up with a contract that is helpful to all. That has been very helpful. So that's one. Then, you know, we now have a National Commission on the Status of Women.
Yes.
That is now permanent, and it does a lot of good work in Pakistan. The current chair, Khabar Mumtaz Sahiba, is on her second term, and, you know, she's a friend and a colleague. We've all worked together in Women Action Forum and other
great.
fora. Then we also have in 3 of the provinces, we now have provincial commissions on the status of women. KP is about to inaugurate even district level commission.
Okay.
So that's a way forward. We have a Human Rights Commission, and
Okay.
we have a Human Rights Commission arm in Sindh as well. There are a lot of men and women who are fighting for this to get equal rights. You know, we have some very good legislation. Some we have held, like the domestic violence legislation has never gone off. 18th Amendment has, in some ways, has put us back because it means that now the provinces have to re-legislate.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have. So these are some of the good things. We see women in many spheres. They are writers, they are broadcasters, all
Okay.
of that.
But absolutely. But the thing is, so let's talk about on the grassroots levels, though. You know, these campaigns and these kind of messages that we want to remember, and we want everyone in Pakistan, not just the women. You have to work alongside the men in order to achieve, you know, this equality and
That's
these
what
rights.
we're doing.
Yeah, we're trying. But on the grassroots level, how accepted are these organizations and these kind of changes that they're trying to bring about to, you know, a culture that's kind of been ingrained into people's minds?
Okay. I was talking to you about all the good things that have
Yes.
happened. Now let's look at the not so good things
Okay.
that are happening. Okay. We have in Pakistan what we call the interplay of formal and customary laws, and they have different kinds of impacts on the lives of men and women. So we have our statutory laws, we have Islamic laws, we have laws of other religions, we have personal laws, then we have codified and uncodified local traditions, some of which are even stronger in terms of especially when they are applied to women. And then, you know, people pick and choose what they wish to implement. So in many cases, if there is a problem, usually the best interpretations are applied to men and the worst interpretations of women. This is the way society operates. Now, that could be grassroots level, as you mentioned. It could be levels up, and many of them will even come into the cities. So we hear of cases where, you know, people have barged into the offices of lawyers and gunned down women who are already victims. So, you know, those things are happening. On the one hand, we are trying to control them through better legislation, and on the other hand, we are not being able to handle them as well as we should, because there is also a mindset.
Okay.
So if you go to a police station and the mindset of the guy who's sitting there is, oh, बीबी क्यों आई है, तुम्हें तो घर में रहना चाहिए था, किसी मर्द को भेजो. So then you have a problem.
Yeah.
And I also say that if we want to safeguard women's rights in this country, grassroots levels upward, then we have to look at this as individual rights. The minute we say family rights, we have a problem, because much of the violence against women in Pakistan is done by family members.
Yeah.
So it is the brothers and the fathers and the uncles, you know. I don't have to tell you, you pick up the paper every
But
day.
this is
you'll
what we
see it.
said when we actually did a show 16 days ago.
Yes.
So you see that, there is a problem, and therefore using human rights as a measure to protect women's rights is really important, because women's rights are not different rights.
I know,
They're human rights. That's what has to be understood.
This is one thing that this is what I was thinking on the weekend as well, is that, you know, women, like, with all of this activism that's going on, my social media, like Facebook is just full of this stuff. I'm just like, but they're human beings, you know, like, you can't use them to settle feuds, you can't use them. That's a human being right there. And in 2017, how are we still having this conversation? How do different people's lives have different values, and different genders have different values and rights and says? That's fine. I find it very odd.
I think I've got an example to illustrate that. Now, for example, whenever a daughter is born within the house, so all of this time until the time she gets married, she has to listen to her father, she has to listen to her brother or mother. I mean, this is what it is, this is what her life is. And then when she gets married, she obviously have to listen to her mother-in-law or probably the husband if he is not in good terms with her mother-in-law too as well. So
Yeah.
that's a different story. But other than that, what inspired you to work for gender equality?
You know, when I was a teenager, I used to see what used to happen around me. I was very lucky to have been born in a family where my grandfather was very forward-looking, and he encouraged me to go abroad at 19. I went to Cambridge, and he came to drop me off at the airport. And my father was also. I don't. All my uncles were not, and I know it was a struggle. Nonetheless, so I was very lucky in that way. And then there were a lot of role models in the family, so the nanis and the dadis and ammi, khala, all of them, and the 60s when I was growing up was a very different times in Pakistan. It was also the time, when Pakistani engineers, for example, built the world's largest contiguous irrigation system in 10 years. I mean, now can you imagine them doing that? And then they went all over the world. We think other people came here to teach us. No, our engineers, our water engineers went all over the world. I'm also from the water sector, so I'll give you examples from there. And so, those 10 years and the years before that, the 50s and 60s were quite amazing, and I think they laid the basis of nationhood. But we have let it all go from the time we let Bangladesh go and then all of that which happened afterwards. So we have a lot of catching up to do. And in those terms, I got inspired by Fatma Jinnah and by Begum Liaquat Ali Khan and by all those icons. I mean, for us, they were, but now are they the icons for our young generation? Have we projected them enough? Why don't we have a woman on one of our banknotes, for example? Why don't we have their pictures all over? Why don't our young people know more about them? And not just women. It's not girls who need to know about them. Boys need to know about them too. Pakistan ka jhanda jisne lehraya tha, wo ek ladki thi. She just passed away just recently. So, we have all of these icons and we have let them go.
Yeah.
So I think just the other day on Twitter, I think Sadiq Khan, who's visiting, mentioned Mohsina Mustahsan, that she was an icon. And then there were a load of people writing and saying, why is she an icon? Why should we support them? I mean, why are we always out there to negate our own heroines? Okay, she's studying abroad. She's a singer, wonderful.
She was on our show to highlight the 16 days activism and things as
Yeah,
well.
why not? And then, when we should be so proud of Malala, there's so many people within Pakistan trying to say, why her? She's an agent. What's wrong with us? I mean, why don't we accept and embrace our icons and people who have done something and people who can become role models, other people are pulling them down.
Okay.
This is
Exactly,
very
that's a
unfortunate.
very good sentiment, and I want to talk about a friend of ours as well. I think this is what people do over here in Pakistan. So Muniba Bazari, I think, is one of those amazing brave souls
Yes,
who's
indeed.
actually created a difference amongst people as well. Because nonetheless, let's just talk about her food drive, which she does on every Sunday, gathering hundreds of people and sharing food for them. And now there's this counter narrative that she's doing it for this thing or whatnot.
But someone's helping.
why can't we look at the positive side of the picture always?
Okay, and even we had that, within certain people not being supported when they're trying to take the country forward, and these people are highlighting the positive things in the society. They're actually helping.
Let's talk about some of those positive things.
So now I want to ask you, because you mentioned in the beginning when you were talking about the Human Rights Day and the women's activism, 16 days activism, and you're with the Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund. You said that the rights of women are also intertwined with the economy and the income and all these issues as well. How have PPAF been involved in helping and alleviating? Because if that's part of the problem, then that also needs to be looked at as well.
Okay.
Right?
First, we all understand about feminization of poverty. So if you do a head count of poor people, there are more poor women. Okay, that's a global trend in developing countries, and in Pakistan that is also a trend. So Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund believes in providing what may be called a kind of level playing field for everyone to be able to pull themselves out of poverty. And in order to do that, we focus on women. We believe in the power of women. We believe that women can make big changes. And we also believe that when you change a woman, you change her entire family. So we focus on women in a very major way. And as part of the microcredit program that PPAF helped set up in this country. At the time when they started, there were just few thousand borrowers, and now they run in the millions. So the focus was on women. So if we look at what we have been able to do, about 62% of all the microcredits that PPAF has engendered have gone to women. And now this entire work has been separated and a new company has been formed. It's called PMIC, Pakistan microfinance investment companies. So that work has gone out.
Fantastic.
What is now left is to work with women and men in many other ways.
Okay.
So my job within PPF is to ensure that we provide assets transfer to women, in particular, men as well. And once women have some kind of asset, then they can slowly enter into the economic sector.
Okay.
If you have no assets of any kind, nobody entertains you, not even the microcredit. Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, this was another thing that I was talking about with my dad this weekend, is the fact that, we don't empower them. We keep them, on a financial kind of back step. And it's only when you get financial
Exactly,
independence is when you're gonna have
how many times do you even see that, a daughter within a house has her own ATM card, just get that. I mean, they do not even have bank accounts.
Wow.
But other than that, since we have to wrap up the segment as well, PPAF has actually got an amazing outreach. You can reach to the different parts of the country as well. How do you think different organizations can help PPAF?
Well, we work through partners.
Yeah.
We have a very lean organization, only about 200 people, but we give out grants to other partner organizations, which are the rural support programs. They are NGOs at different levels. Many of them are women's organizations, some of them are local organizations, and we also help setting up institutions for the people and of the people. So our main work is to set up grassroots level institutions, beginning with community organizations, which may be men and women together, or they could be men separately and women separately, then building them up into village organizations, further into local support organizations, and then the idea is that they are able to stand on their own feet. After a little while, they can function as their own, by themselves as NGOs. So this is what we do. We work in a lot of sectors. We believe in participation and inclusion. Inclusion means financial inclusion, and inclusion in many other ways, including the question of rights and access. We believe in stewardship. We believe in transparency and accountability. And for me, it's a real pleasure to work with this organization, working over 120 districts, because all my work of so many years can be put together to the service of people in this country and whatever one has learned from across the globe. And being connected with the government, having worked on the National Commission, working with organizations like Shirkatgah and Aurat Foundation, all of that can be brought together. This is what we have to do, and we as Pakistanis, we need, wherever we are, whichever organization we work in, we have to be true to that organization's objectives, and we have to bring all our experiences together into the service of women. Lots more need to be done. I'm glad to see young people. You are young, that you are I hope you are part of the women's movement.
Yes, absolutely.
And if not, become part of that movement.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show and discuss a very important topic and subject. And, I just want to highlight that, some people are like, oh, why are women always going on about this, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, when you are a developing nation, you're trying to be the best you can be, when you have, an idea that, if something bad happens to you, like rape or beating, it's better to kill yourself than to get justice, then there's something wrong in your society and your thinking. And when you're parading people, naked through villages, there's something wrong, and we have to do something about it.
And we will definitely. That's why we're called Pakistanis as well. So things are not that way, which they were or they used to be. It's getting better day by day. And we'll be fine. So do not go anywhere, because we have to go for a short break. We'll be right back, because we've got another interesting segment to share with you guys. Stay blessed. Good morning.
The Festival of Lamps, or Mela Chiragha, is a very important and popular event in Pakistan. This is celebrated every spring on the last Friday of March outside the Shalimar Gardens. The show has been described as an eloquent expression of Pakistan's heritage and an authentic account of its agricultural and industrial achievements.
Naman behuda girde, naman behuda girde.
Fortress Stadium, the venue of the show, is thronged by active participants, foreign visitors, and people who watch the festival with great enthusiasm, verve, and aplomb. A large number of them are interested in watching and appreciating the best breeds of livestock. Many derive pleasure by watching other activities, such as the display parade of animals, dances by horses and camels, polo matches, tent pegging, dog shows and their races, daring acts of stuntmen, mass display of military band, rhythmical physical exercise by children, tastefully decorated industrial floats, and torchlight tattoo shows. Additional attractions include a subtle interplay of lights to weave enticing patterns at night and breathtaking acts by foreign groups. Fairs and festivals of Pakistan.
Welcome back, everyone. And before the break, we're talking about the 16 days activism, which we helped, observe as well. And we were finding out what is the impact of these kind of campaigns. Then we also observed the Human Rights Day, which was yesterday, because it's women's rights are human rights. And, we need to be aware of what we have within the legislation and what activities we have within the country.
And other than that, ladies and gentlemen, there are people who actually calculate numbers and tell you that what is actually going to happen within the country or outside the country or in the world as well, or in your life. And this is what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing numerology, and we've been joined by somebody very amazing, somebody very pretty right over here in the studios. She's a numerologist, personality coach, psychotherapist, yoga teacher, and Reiki master. So she is none other than Miss Rahila Ahmed. Hello, Rahila. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Absolutely
So thank you for
perfect.
joining us today. And numerology can be applied to different things. And this is some people take interest. And you're also a psychotherapist, which is very interesting. So it's an interesting mix. But before we get started on everything, can you just briefly tell us, for all our viewers out there, what is numerology and how does it actually, work?
Okay. First of all, a very good morning to all your viewers across the globe.
Thank you.
And now, coming back to your question, numerology, as the number suggests, it's through numbers. So it's an art and science of numbers. And the idea behind it is that everything in this universe has a certain vibrational frequency. So it's a vibration. In the same way, numbers also have a vibration. And anything and everything in this world has a certain number.
Okay.
So or the things or circumstances or objects can be defined by numbers.
Okay.
And by knowing the number of a certain particular thing or event or situation or person, you can decipher all about that.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent. That's interesting.
So how did you got into it? Now, this is something which I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, it was a chain of series, like as if you just introduced me that I do lots of things. So one thing led to the other.
Okay.
And I was like, initially it started with Reiki, but then I got interested into all the paranormal sciences and all these things that can tell you. I was very curious right from the beginning. So this thing, it tells you, it gives you a great deep insight into your own personality. And when you are on the path of growth or spiritual development or personality development, this comes as a guideline.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
going through something like that these days.
So I think what we need to do is that
The
we need to
stars
get,
have aligned.
so we need to get our vibrations checked up
guys,
with the help
sorry.
of numbers, right?
Yeah, and so the thing
So
is,
what do we do?
Also, isn't the size, the expanding of the universe also based on the some sort of frequency and stuff?
I don't know.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Yes,
I'll
I
find
would-
that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I would really want to answer this. Is such an interesting thing because as many of us know that numerology is also a tool of divination,
Okay.
like astrology and palmistry and tarots. But if we look at numerology, as I earlier mentioned, that everything in this universe has a number. Now, if we just look at Allah, there is nothing associated with Allah except for the number 1.
Okay.
This in itself, as you just rightly said, that the whole grandiosity of the universe is based on numbers. So this in itself tells us that how much grandiosity is associated with the number 1, because that's the only thing that's associated with Allah.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so now the thing is, because it's not about telling the future and predicting what's going to happen in your life, it's about guiding you and getting more insight of
Yeah.
yourself, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
wonderful. So
Ma,
there's no
you-
predictions, there's nothing like that.
So Maha, you were going to do it first, and ladies and gentlemen, we were very clever,
Yeah.
so we have told her our birth dates and years earlier.
Yeah,
we didn't
I
want
don't
to
really
share
hide
it on
mine.
TV, but I know.
But I don't
it's
want to
perfectly
share
all right. So is it just the numbers, or is it the name too as well?
It's both. It's a mix of both, because 60% of your entire chart comes from your date of birth. That's your destiny. That's the thing that is decided.
Okay.
And no matter what, even if you like it or not, you have to walk down that path eventually. And 40% comes from your name. And initially, because our name is taken more, so initial years of your life, the name's vibration takes the lead. And then eventually after 25 or 30, or at times at 30, after 35, it starts going on to the vibration of your destiny that comes from your date of birth.
Okay,
Oh.
I'm
So
close to that.
let's do it. So let's do it. Okay, let's start with me. My complete name, full name is Shahzad Ehsan Khan.
Okay, it's Ehsan as well.
Oh,
in
do you
between.
need the full thing?
SHAHZAD
Oops, I didn't
space
give you-
IHSAN
So
space
it
Khan.
will, like, if you want, I can just take time to calculate that. But if we just go with Shahzad, which
Yeah,
I
just
already
go
know.
with
Yeah.
Shahzad then.
So I was told Shahzad Khan. So
Yeah.
if we go by Shahzad Khan, Shahzad in itself comes to the vibration of 8.
Okay.
And 8 is a very grounded, solid and balanced number. And it's always like balancing the material and the spiritual. And it's very high on morals and ethics. But if we go by Shahzad Khan, so it comes down to 6. Like if I just look at this Shahzad Khan in the totality,
Yeah.
I can see that, like, because you have quite 8s in your whole name, so it tells that the aggression is quite high, but because of the final number, that's 6, you have that under balance.
Yeah, that's so true. I've never seen you lose your temper like that. That's pretty good.
So
And you
how many
absorb all
times
of
am I
my
getting
moods.
married? This is what I want to do.
As many times as you wish.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because 6 is like, if you look at the number 6, it's like this.
Yeah.
So it shows that it's pregnant with love. So you have a lot of love to spread everywhere.
That's such a beautiful way of talking about the number 6. It's pregnant with love. Oh, that's so
Yeah,
cute.
that's just cool.
Excellent.
All right,
Okay.
Bahar's
Oh
turn now.
gosh, I'm scared.
Like, if I just, like, can I tell you a little bit more about Shahzad?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please tell us.
So Shahzad, you gave me your date of birth, and from your date of birth, you're born on the 30th, like, which comes down to 3. Now, these people are always related to performing arts, anything related to arts, acting, dancing, hosting, singing, anything, one of these talents are in them. And they're naturally gifted with the decoration of plants and arrangement. They have good aesthetic senses. And your total number comes to 11. 11 is a master number, and it is an illuminary number. It's that kind of a number which will give benefit to others in any case.
excellent.
And they're very literary people. They love to read, and their writing skills are very good.
Very nice.
Okay,
So
excellent.
if you haven't explored that area, you must, because
Okay.
all your numbers tell me that you can be very good with writing
Okay.
and
Wow,
with words
that's
as well.
And if you go back to
Yeah.
all our shows on reading and stuff and how...
Yeah, exactly.
need to go down
I've
that
been
road.
writing my own songs, ladies and gentlemen, and then
Okay.
Maha used to tell me that, I've got a very good handwriting.
Yeah.
So all of these things are very
Yeah,
true.
no, so I mean, I'm quite surprised. Yeah, that's quite accurate. You are,
Yes.
yeah, good.
On point, on spot.
Yeah, excellent. Okay,
And now I think Maha's going to be on the
yeah,
spot.
mine.
Master.
So, okay.
Oh God, nothing negative, okay?
Mama
Nothing
do.
negative.
I don't tell anything negative though. So I'm very good in sugar coating.
Okay, excellent. Good.
Because at times we really, when people come to me for their analysis, I cannot just tell them all the good pictures because they come to me for growth.
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
need to tell them which areas,
I know.
because numerology gives you a very good insight into your potentials
Yeah.
and your weaknesses as well.
Excellent.
And also it tells you that what are the obstacles in your life that you need to overcome. So that's very important.
Okay.
So if I come to you, Maha, what's your full name?
I forgot to give you my full name. It's
Maha
Maha
Makhdoom.
Akmal Makhdoom.
Okay,
But you can go with Maha Makhdoom,
I
it's
just
fine,
like,
I'm
so
sorry.
I will just go with Maha Makhdoom.
Yeah.
So if, in fact, initially I will go with Maha. Maha is like 5. And 5 is a number of travel, a lot of versatility.
Okay.
It's like you might be exploring many different places. And if yeah, that would come because Maha, your date of birth, your whole thing came down to 9.
Okay.
So
And
it's 5 and 6 for us, and then 8 and 9 for us too as well.
Yeah. So 9 is basically, it has all the numbers in it.
Okay.
So it carries the potentials and the baggage of all the numbers.
Yes, okay.
So it, again, it's an idealist, it's
Yeah.
a perfectionist,
Okay.
it oscillates between mood swings.
Yeah.
So extreme mood swings as well. But yes, the best thing about 9 is that it's a humanitarian.
Okay.
It's a very kind number and it helps. It loves to help and it loves to travel as well. Do you?
Yeah, I love to help and I love to travel. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then
Very controlling.
Maha, like, there's something very interesting that I can see in your name. That it starts with an M.
Yeah.
M, if you didn't had it in your number, in your whole chart, you would have been a very scattered person all over the place.
Yeah.
But M is grounded.
Okay.
So M gives you the stability and the groundedness.
Okay,
So that's
excellent.
a very good thing. But if you look at Maha Makhdoom, it comes down to 13. That's 4. And 4 also is a number of balance. But then I'm missing one name. I always take the full name by
Okay,
at
okay.
birth.
I think
So
4
that's
is
how we
even
do.
pregnant with
Yeah.
love though.
4 is not pregnant.
Yeah,
That 4
4.
is stability.
Yeah,
Or
4
4 has like 4 corners and
Alright.
it's practical, stable, grounded. And yet again, Maha, you have this ability to get into motivational speaking and to encourage large groups of people for a cause.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Yeah.
a humanitarian and it always has a secret desire to be known and recognized.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And
yes.
All right, so I think we
that's-
should stop now.
I think that's where we are, and this is
feel like my
happening
soul
right now
is
as
being
well. But
exposed.
other than that, now what I wanted to ask was that there are quite a lot of people, a larger group of people around the globe who really do not want to believe in numerology.
Yes.
How did you, do you, obviously, you know, when you do it, you have to believe in your own self first as well, and then you can actually guide people through the obstacles of life.
Yes.
So what do you have to say about the sentiment which people carry that numerology, nah man, this is out of faith?
There are so many, see, Shahzad, there are so many people who have different schools of thoughts. Now, there are people basically, because where we live, we are Muslims and everything, they bring it back down to this, that it's against Islam and it's haram and all those things come up. But then there are other sets of people who want to progress,
Yeah.
who want to excel. So they will use anything and everything that comes that way. And as I mentioned earlier as well, that numerology is a tool, as Maha rightly said, that it helps you, it guides you. It's a guide. And I tell people, like people call me and they say that what should we expect in a chart? So I tell them that it's just like whatever obstacles you are facing. When you have a certain problem, you go to a doctor. The doctor sees you and then he would suggest certain tests so that he can see deeper. So numerology is also a kind of your X-ray that will tell you that which problems, which areas are lacking, where is the energy stuck, and what can you do to keep the energy flowing. Here I would like to give you my example. Like if anyone would have noticed my name, it's like an R-A-H-E-E-L-A-A.
Yeah,
So
I
it's a
did notice
double
that.
A at the end. I changed the spellings of my name.
Yeah. And people do that here. I've noticed in Pakistan. Like,
Yeah.
you know, people have.
I mean,
changed
if
their
you have
names.
got the notice kid around, so that's what people tell you to do.
Okay.
And it
Because
really, I just want to finish
Sure,
this because
sure.
it has a lot to tell about. That initially my name was 5, like it came from the 14, and certain kinds of obstacles. And I used to feel that. I used to work very hard, but I used to feel that there were barriers everywhere. And then I just added an A, and just by adding one A, like it seemed that doors of opportunities opened on me. I was called on Nadia Khan's show, my TV career started, people started calling me, and I got opportunities anywhere and everywhere. And the most exciting thing about it is that 6 is naturally gifted with decorations
We have the
and
same
doing
number.
the interiors and all. So right after that, it's like I wanted to do that. So I
Okay.
redo all my house after that.
Excellent.
Wow.
I know that's really good. But I want to talk about how it actually helps people, because some people are very reluctant to go to therapists or psychologists
Yes,
or
they are.
psychiatrists. So I mean, I think there's a lack of understanding of what numerology has been kind of put into that concept of psychic and being telling the future, which
Yes.
also goes against a lot of people's beliefs. But how do you think that within Pakistan this can be now used? Because I mean, the insight was very interesting. It was good. Like, it was
Yeah,
deep.
because the rest of the things we're going to ask her after the show.
Yeah. So how do you think we can now get? How can people now start coming? Because it's a form of therapy as well.
Yeah, it is a form of
I
therapy.
don't know if I can say that. Can I?
Because I'm a personality coach, so I use it as a tool of assessing one's personality.
Okay.
People come to me to enhance their personalities.
Okay.
And there are people who are very switched on. They know that these are the areas that we want improvement in. But yet again, there are people who step in with a lot of confusion. So what to do about them? And I don't like all those personality tests, because I don't think that they can define a person.
Okay, that's a
So
very
then what is psychic reading and how do we do
Yeah,
it?
what's the difference between that? What's psychic reading?
Psychic reading now, for instance, in older times, people did not record their date of births. So mostly in numerology, date of birth is one of the major aspects that we need to see. So if we don't know the date of birth, what do we do? Then is where psychic readings step in. Psychic reading is basically reading into the energies, tuning into the energies of a person, because everyone has an aura that's an
The different
energetic
colours,
field.
right?
Yeah. Every aura has a color, and it's basically the energy surrounding any object. So that's how we do the reading. So I tune into the energies of that person, and then the information starts unfolding.
Okay, so is that what you were doing before? You were trying to tune into our energies. I felt like you were looking at us in an interesting way.
So do you ask for a consent before doing anybody's reading, or you just do it then?
No, I don't do it unless and until someone doesn't ask me for it, because this is like intruding into someone's space, and I don't do that.
No,
Okay,
but
that's
at times,
ethically not
you,
right.
it just happens unintentionally as well. You're sitting somewhere and you
She's
see
not you,
somebody.
Shazad.
I know, but you get a vibe, right? You get
You
a
get a
feeling.
vibe. You are absolutely right about it, that lots of people are intuitive, and you just sit and you feel good. That's
Yeah.
a vibe, that the person is positive.
Exactly.
And then you sit and the person is very nicely
what vibes
dressed,
are
but
we giving?
you feel
I
repulsed
think
from
Yeah.
the person.
I think I'm giving a
vibes
very
are we
sleepy
giving?
vibe today.
As if I talk about you, Maha, because both of you are sitting very close, so your auras are also merging.
Yeah.
But if I just talk about you, you're a very positive, upbeat, and you're a very compassionate person as well. That's what I can see from your aura.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
Where's my aura?
you're very optimistic and passionate about some things.
Okay. Okay, great.
And then you're also very highly romantically passionate person.
Okay, let's stop now. Okay, so let's stop that. And that was wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. We've actually run out of time. We're going to continue this conversation off the screen.
And we're going to get her on the show once again as well, where
Yes.
we can actually get people to call in, and then
Exactly.
we're going to sort your obstacles out.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. So if you want any information about anything we've spoken about today, do log on to our Facebook fan page,
Which is with the name World This Morning.
our Twitter page,
Well, this morning without a G.
and Daily Motion and YouTube page.
Well, this morning,
And the repeat to that.
5 past 11 p.m.
Have a wonderful day, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Be good and be safe.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3, good
Good
morning.
morning.